What's the name of the show?
That's a good question.
This is the user group.
This is the user group.
All right.
So is it on?
Yeah, we're on. Hey, we're here to say hi to the Commodore user group at Vegas, whatever year this is, 2006.
2006. And every other user group that happens to get their hands on this video.
I'm Bill Hurd, and this is Dave Haynie, and here is actually Bob Russell, who is a lesser heard about, but very famous and person within Commodore. He did the VIC-20 and the Commodore 64 software. And we've actually just got through sitting down and having an extensive interview with Bob, just talking about the old days. He knew Jack, whereas we kind of knew Jack's shadow. We actually lived in Bob's shadow because we learned that he was immortal. And so we used him to protect. And he taught us a lot of things about how to survive in the Commodore environment. And Bob, what we were talking about in the interview was I had to hire Dave into Commodore, but Bob's the guy that got me into Commodore. So there's kind of this early generation to mid-generation to late generation all here. So it was interesting. And we did last time we talked about hardware a lot, and one of our reasons for sitting down with Bob just a little bit ago was to try and get out some of the programmers that were part of Commodore. We talked about hardware, and last time we didn't give a fair shake to Freddie Bowen and Terry Ryan and Dave Siracusa, and we didn't talk about people like John Fagans and the games group, Andy Finkel and everybody that did this stuff, because we're hardware people. We think in hardware terms, and think of those. So, and one thing I wanted to say, these days the terms nerd and geeks, it's like we weren't nerds and geeks. The programmers weren't nerds and geeks either back then. This Earthling commercial, I'm a nerd, I'm a geek. Oh, screw you guys. We're intelligent, serious people who had a job to do. And now they weren't hardware engineers. We did make a distinction. There were hardware engineers, there were programmers. And one time somebody asked me that. He snibbled. I swear to God. He said, what's wrong with you hardware engineers? What makes you different? I grabbed a bottle of Tabasco and I went, that's what makes a hardware engineer. So we did have some class war. I mean, Benny Pruden jumping down and bowing every time we walked by. That helped our egos a lot. So
actually we were software engineers.
Yeah. Yes.
Because the programmers were the people that did the applications, and we were always involved with the hardware, the actual engineering of the products. So correctly, what we were software engineers.
We still said programmers sometimes.
In what came out from talking with Bob earlier is just the key piece. These days you think of a programmer as the thing that runs on a program after the computer works. And the software guys were absolutely the thing that made it work. They gave you the code to test in the beginning, but they made the glue. They were the glue that held it together. And when talking about Terry Ryan and Fred Bowen in the C128, when I first got to Commodore, the programmers, software engineers, and the chip guys, chip designers, they didn't like each other. And I caught on to this. I mean, lots of finger pointing and throwing heavy objects at each other's heads, and remember memos about Rasha squawking noises and all kinds of cool things. But what we did at the beginning of the 128 was I sat the two groups down. I was only 24. I was no great manager, but this was kind of the way I approached it. And I pointed to the chip guys, and I told the software engineers, look, these guys are going to give you whatever you ask for. You ask for it now, and they will do their best to get it for you. I will then be able to make some changes to kind of keep things going that covers up the errors, but at the end of the day, the software guys have to live with the mistakes the chip guys make, the mistakes I make, the oversights, the architecture, and just live with it. Just know that they are the last people to touch it, because they can change code up to the last minute, whereas the chip guys are locked in months in advance. Just don't worry about bitching about it. It's broke, fix it. And that seemed to make all the difference in the world. We did the 128 where at the end of the day, we were still friends and still had a lot of respect for each other and weren't throwing heavy objects at each other's heads. We did have a few killings, but they were deserved and not in our group.
Of course, yeah.
So,
and this tradition stayed through the rest of Commodore, by the way.
Did you guys still use fuses? I mean, I'd like to think I started that tradition, but did they stop? The 128 was the first hardware thing to have a fuse on it. Oh, then they went that you could change.
Oh no, we never had fuses. Maybe in power supplies or something. Actually, at one point we had poly fuses. They tripped when they got too hot and then they came back.
Oh, okay.
Magically. But no, we kept doing that, and I've been doing that every company I've been with since. The hardware guys and the software guys, and if there were chip guys all got along. It's not the way of the world.
So cool. One of the things we were talking about was the serial bus gets a bum rap. in the Commodore world, and did I hear a boo and a hiss there? I mean, that was. But Bob's the guy that did the serial bus. But what Bob did was fix the hardware. There was something wrong in a chip, and they found out literally at the last moment that not only the computer would lock up, but every device on it. So you couldn't just power cycle the disk drive and have it work. It was locked. The bus was locked, and so Bob here was given a week by Jack Tramiel. As Gail Moyer put it, he was told where to set the working object when he was done, and made the serial bus. So he literally pulled everybody's ass out of the fire. Yes, it was slow and all those things, but it worked, and that was true Commodore fashion. Was get it out there. I mean, you know, we did as good a quality as time allotted for and everything. So, you know, I just went and saw a Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young concert last night. It was like a peace rally. I was reminded. I wrote the words on the thing here. Speaking of Fred Bone and Terry Ryan, link arms don't make them. That's part of the Easter egg that's hidden in the C128, and that's definitely a Ryanism.
Oh yeah,
I think that's
yeah.
We never knew what a computer would say when it'd wake up. It would tell you don't accept wooden nickels, to eat your veggies, things like that. One time, I were working all afternoon trying to get an interface to work. And Ryan, I'm on my scope, and Ryan's over there typing, and I'm on my scope, and I'm like, nope, still not working. He's typing some more, and I check, no. Finally, I said, yeah, it's just a bunch of V's and stuff coming out. And he just goes like this. He goes, Vini, Vidi, Vici? And I said, yeah, you could say, you know, I don't know Italian. I came, I saw, I conquered. It had been working for like hours. And I'm just going, no, I'm expecting a message like, you know, eat tofu or something like that. Ryan was a vegetarian, so he added to that whole programmer meat eater thing.
There's another interesting story about the C128 Easter egg in that there was one of many useless layers of management at Commodore during the
Julian layer.
The Julian layer, yes, had told our product assurance group to find all the Easter eggs and remove them. Well, I had been looking through a monitor, and the C128 had a built-in machine language monitor, and I was looking through there somewhere,
which was perfect for pirating software.
Oh yeah,
according to Gail Wellington.
Yeah, because it was in ROM, and you could get to it very easily.
I sent her a text thanking her for her compliment on that one.
And I found some weird messages with like our names in it and stuff, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. I didn't know about that. And I asked Fred about it a little bit later, and he said, oh yeah, well they were told to find an Easter egg, so we put a fake Easter egg in. That's not the real. The one you found isn't the real one. And then he showed me the real one, which you couldn't possibly find because you had to see the registers to decrypt it and everything. And that's the 328.123.123.45.6. And that's what comes up there. But yeah, so they didn't even find the decoy Easter egg.
Oh yeah, they were. And the user group, by the way, found it in 2 days. It was published 2 days after the 128 came. They found that the Shift Q didn't work, and they found that the Easter egg on that. The Easter egg story I heard, and this is sort of software-ish. We got a notice that the font ROM had to be changed. Why? Because the reverse V had a byte missing, so it had a bar over it. Well, that's Von Ertwein, and they found it when they made the Easter egg. Von Ertwein, he was one of the programmers. So we had to go to the Julian layer, and what happened then was like, okay, I was set to release a new font ROM, and we had treated font ROMs as if they were hardware, so I was going to do the release. And Julian stepped in, seeing that another layer of management could be ultimately beneficial somehow, said, from now on, all programming release, all font ROM releases will be through me. Fine, okay, I'll need it by Tuesday. Here's the thing, here's the code, da-da-da. And then every day I was like, Julian, how's that going? We got chips ready to roll, we're going, trucks are going. No, it's good. Well, there was a memo that came out that said anybody caught breaking into the manager's offices will be fired, even you, Bill Hurd. I mean, it literally said something to that effect. Well, over the weekend, I broke into Julian's office. We climbed over the walls, which I always hated. I mean, you get that white crap all over you, and you cut your arms on the railing and stuff. Opened his desk drawer. There's the font ROM that's supposedly under all this scrutiny and test. I pick it up, and I delivered it to MOS. Come about Wednesday, this is Monday morning it went out. Come Wednesday or so, we're sitting in a meeting, you know how it's nearing the end of this evaluation cycle, and I looked at him, I'm a 24-year-old long-haired kid, and I go, you're lying. That's wrong. I broke into your office and I stole it. over the weekend, I've released it to MS already, and I leaned back to waiting to be fired, right? You know, because I didn't care. I mean, it's fire me now for what I did. And the look on his face was great, but it really did. I mean, if we had waited for his schedule, we actually would have not had font ROMs for C128 or for the CES show that year. So it's. Oh, you got any stories? He's got the problem with Bob Russell is you got to beat crap out of him.
Well,
we've known him for years, and we still don't know what all he did.
My era, we didn't do cookies because we didn't have enough space. When I was done with the 64, I had 5 bytes left to do anything with. So
yeah,
I put in Bob Yanis in my initials, and I was going to put it by RSR, but Bob wasn't too happy with that thought. So.
You guys used to run a program in BASIC to find anytime, ISKR did that, anytime there was three bytes of the same, 3 instructions of the same in a row, it would look for that and try and create a subroutine, or tell them where to go make a subroutine. They were after. People don't know how much memory they had these days, but you guys wrote BASIC, the kernel was 2K and the BASIC was 2K?
Well, I mean,
the VIC-20?
if the VIC-20, yeah, you're talking about a lot less memory in those days.
Because then it was 4K and 4K for the C64 or something.
So we had additional space by the time we got it, and like I say, we also added a lot more features and stuff like that. So the whole issue with those machines really was that the chip guys thought you didn't need any ROM. And we, of course, that's where I got involved. You actually need ROM so you have something that it boots up and does something. So, I mean, of course, we only booted up and did BASIC, but that's all. That got you to the starting point. So, so that's what that era about. Yeah, but I got a ton of stupid little stories about that type of stuff because that was why I got involved with the VIC-20 in the first place. Right. They sent us a bunch of hardware and like, okay, build a computer out of it, and so they're sitting around going like, who's available? Because all the more senior people at that point in time were doing the next generation computer, and
who's around
I was left. So they got the VIC-20 as kind of a whole project, and let's go ahead and make it work. So.
Yeah, this book by Brian Bagnall on Commodore, I would read something about Russell in, and I'd call him at home. Was this you? Did you do this? I don't know. It's funny how I read a book to find out because, like I said, we got there. And we didn't talk about what happened the year before there. It was all about living in the moment there. And so we literally didn't... When I got there, the people who had done the C64 had just left. I describe it like the cigar was still going in the ashtray and the chairs were still warm, and there was Bob, right? And a couple of Benny Pruden,
Benny was still there,
yeah. But we didn't really stop and ask, so what were these people like? What could we learn from it? We just went ahead, and now that I'm older and wiser, or hopefully wiser, I wish I had kind of said, hey, what was this crew like, and how'd they get us to here? And that might have helped us get things forward.
But you ran across them all later on, El Charpentier, Charlie Winterbowl, Bob Yanis. I mean, that was really the other key, members. And, you even worked later on with the, technician who basically did it there with Dave. So.
Yeah. It was interesting coming into that, though, because, again, like Bill's saying, with years of experience, one of the things I would have asked is, where's all the stuff you never released and why? Yeah. Because there's, the same thing that the users want to hear about would have been good for us at one point to at least know why things failed, what they were trying to do, because you can always learn from the mistakes other people make, and that's tough when you don't have continuity at a company.
There's too much documentation sometimes, such a thing.
Yeah.
One day I open a desk drawer and I pull out the Apple schematic for the Z80 card. It says Apple right on there, Apple on front. I pull out the Commodore 64 schematic for the Z80 card. I mean, it's right down to the pin numbers and everything, and it's like, oh, that would explain where we got the schematic from. So the one piece
of ours didn't work either, I guess.
Yeah. So I always thought that was interesting. That's why we kept that one in a drawer. It was too incriminating. So, well, at any rate, we wanted to. It's hard to believe people remember Commodore these days. I've given up trying to explain it to people. 10 years ago, I could say, hey, remember the Commodore 64? Your parents might have had one or something. Nowadays, I don't even try. Nobody remembers the Commodore as being what they were. And when I was first coming in the company, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to go work for the company that has the home computer out. Everything else was a little silly thing. And I played games, but you know what? That was the way into the home market. And TV sets. There was no home monitors,
Yeah. And it's interesting to notice that the entire PC industry's technology is being driven largely by game players who are the only ones who go out and buy real fast new hot PCs these days.
Yeah.
So gaming is a lot more respectable than it used to be.
Well, I'd argue that's why the Macintosh with the closed architecture, people couldn't make a faster anything unless it came from Apple. So why would you?
Yeah, actually. Strangely enough, I had a company that tried, and we were successful for a little while, and
the only one did.
then they got blown away.
Yeah, I asked somebody one time, how come all the Commodore people, we're like at the end of the movie Deer Hunter, where we just keep going around playing Russian roulette and doing these dangerous things. That's because after the Commodore environment, it's like, I need stretch, man. Can you set me up? Oh yeah, here, go create the world, and here's $1 to do it with. And we did. We're all going. One day, Bob said, "Well," I said, "Why do we do that? What's wrong with us? With the Twitch?" And he's like, "We're risk takers, man. It's what we learned." I'm like, "Oh, cool. Thank you." So, and here we are today. We're still trying to do things our own way, and it was a cool time. It really was a cool time and a cool thing to be a part of. And we worked with amazingly bright and brilliant people, and we don't keep in touch with enough of them today. We'd love to get them all together. So it's great that you guys are together. That's hard to believe you still do that after all these years. And so hey, maybe we'll be around to send you a video next year. And I think we were talking about with some of your people, and maybe we'll send you some paraphernalia this year that you can use as door prizes or something. We'll see what we can work up. So thanks again for your support of Commodore. Any last words, guys? It's just can't believe they're still using them.
Can't believe they're still using them.
I've still got a basement full of stuff. So maybe
we'll get you an email address. You can email. I'm beherded now. I'm using C128.com. I don't know how long I'm going to be with the JerseyNet. But the beherd@jersey.net, your email address, Dave.
Still dhaynie@jersey.net.
Do you have one you give out?
You can give me.
I'll give him one. It'll be Bob Russell@jersey.net.
Yeah, there.
B Russell. So again, thanks. Have a good show.
Yeah. So
cool. I like that better.
okay.
It gives you a lot more to work on.
Yeah.
Well, I think.